Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Welcome, everybody, to the Attacking Football podcast. This week, I am joined by our resident scouser, Scott Mason. We have Josh Middleton, beautiful man, up there on the screen. And in the wings, in the studio, we have producer Alfie. You'll hear his voice. You won't see his beautiful face. Welcome, boys. How are we doing?
Doing well.
Very good, thank you.
Good.
Even better after that intro.
Mate, it's my first podcast in a while. I'm so happy to be back. Before we go any further, guys, please subscribe down there. Alfie, can you put a subscribe button here? Yeah. And then can you put our Twitter and our Instagram and the website just there? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Guys, we are here this week to talk about the enigma that is Kobbie Mainoo. Now, it's been a controversial topic. He was called up to the England under-21 spectacularly and never actually went. I think he got to the training ground and immediately was told, no, actually go and play with the seniors, please. Does he deserve to be there? Should he be there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You saying yes?
Yeah, I'm saying, categorically yes, I am saying.
Is he there because he deserves to be in the squad, or is he there because he deserves to be in the Euros?
Oof, that's a wider question. He definitely deserves to be in the squad. And for me, if the rest of his season goes the way it has done thus far, he deserves to be at the Euros.
He's 18.
Yeah.
The last 18-year-old that went to the Euros with England was Theo Walcott, and he played a grand total of 0 minutes.
He was 16, though, when he first got his England call-up as well.
When he got his first England call-up, I think he was 18 when he went to the Euros. He played 0 minutes, and everybody afterwards was saying, why did he go?
Yeah.
But what about Michael Owen?
Mm.
Different. He was already scoring bags and bags of goals for Liverpool. Bags and bags of goals for Liverpool.
Did Bellingham not go in 2020? How old was he?
I don't know if he went, did he?
I think he went in 2021.
Yeah,
Alfie, can you look that up for us?
Yeah, he did. I remember he might have been 19.
19.
Right. I will.
Okay. But then if you look at the flip side of the coin, Wayne Rooney went and ripped France to shreds, and he was 18, came back home and signed for Man United. So...
Don't remind me of that tournament. That was the one that got away.
my issue is, look, I 100% think Mainoo deserves to be in the England squad on merit. My issue is I don't think Gareth Southgate is brave enough to play him, so he's going to go and have a nice holiday and then come home again without having played a minute. That's my concern, and I don't think that's going to benefit him.
But who plays instead of him? Sorry, Alfie, go on.
Bellingham, aged 17 years old and 349 days, when he became the youngest Englishman to play at any major tournament. When he came on as
okay, played.
My ball knowledge.
Yeah.
Scott, a broken clock is right twice a day, my man. Well done. To answer your question, mate, who should go in front of him? Let me read you a list of England midfielders that are in contention to go to the Euros. Right, we've got Calvin Phillips, Jordan Henderson, Kobbie Mainoo, Declan Rice, Phil Foden, Conor Gallagher, Jude Bellingham, Cole Palmer, Harvey Elliott. Lewis Miley is an outsider. Sean Longstaff is an outsider. James Maddison, Curtis Jones, Mason Mount, James Ward-Prowse, who I argue is probably a better shout. Ross Barkley, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is a midfielder in Gareth Southgate's eyes and nobody else's. Angel Gomez, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and Morgan Gibbs-White. That is a very long list of England midfielders, and I don't think Gareth Southgate plays Mainoo ahead of any of them. Really?
No, I don't think he starts. I think if you're going to have Rice and Bellingham, I think you need a James Maddison or a Trent on that other side of the midfield. Because I think you'll have Rice sitting, you'll have Bellingham like the ball carrier, dribbles up the pitch. Then you'd need that creative player like a Maddison or a Trent who can whip the ball in from midfield.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there needs to be somebody more creative there. I don't think, despite him probably being the best player in the world at the moment, I don't think Bellingham is all that creative. I think he's a box crasher.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a James Maddison. He's not a KDB. He's not Bruno Fernandes who creates chance after chance after chance. So there needs to be that element of creativity from somewhere else. I don't think Phil Foden's that creative. And if you're asking Harry Kane and Saka to shoulder the burden of the entire creative process of the team, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one question
know
there?
what his best position is.
No.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
When haven't we asked Harry Kane and Saka to burden the creativity for everyone else? When has a Gareth Southgate midfield ever been that creative?
When have we won a tournament?
Yeah, it's a good question. My point is that Gareth Southgate's still the manager.
He is still the manager, yeah, but we're talking about what we think, not what Gareth Southgate thinks. I don't care what Southgate thinks. He's going to do his own thing regardless, right? But if you're the manager, if you're the England manager,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to ask Scott that because I think he'd self-combust. If you're the England manager, who do you pick as your midfield three? Out of that list of England players that I just shouted out.
Rice and Bellingham are nailed on.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's one of two, and it's Kobbie or it's Gibbs White for me.
Is there a reason for that? Is like just a particular style of player?
Oh my god!
Why am I wrong?
No, this is not how this works. You defend your own opinion. You don't ask us to defend it for you. Why are you right?
Why am I right?
Why are you right?
Because,
Alfie, while he's answering that, can you look up how many England caps Morgan Gibbs White has, please?
How many England games have I managed?
Probably more than Gareth Southgate has. I'd argue he doesn't very many.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah, I can stand there and look pretty too.
Sorry, Morgan Gibbs White has played the same amount of games for England as Josh has managed for England. So,
and you're throwing him in a major tournament with zero experience.
Yeah, because he's tenacious. Like, he doesn't care. He'll go at it. And the other thing is, I think I'll start with Kobbie, right? I'll start with Mainoo. He's not a sitter, right? So Declan Rice is going to sit in my team. Now, we'll come on to Morgan Gibbs White and Declan Rice in a minute, but Declan Rice is going to sit in my team. Bellingham's going to play further up, and Kobbie's going to link the two. I know. Look, I've seen all this stuff online about his cameo in the Brazil game, and it was all sideways passes. And I think I saw a comment from someone who said, apart from the turn, it was a Henderson performance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a lot of time to make your mark on a game, but the way Kobbie Mainoo carries the ball, you only have to go back to his previous professional game against Liverpool. The way he carries the ball, sorry, Scott, is better than most players on that list you've just mentioned.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's not a profile we have in midfield. Now, my case for Morgan Gibbs White is, he says, delaying for a little bit of time, is that I'd play him, again, controversial, I think. I would play him higher than Bellingham.
Interesting. So you're going to use Bellingham to link.
Yeah. So I play.
Okay. In that case, why would you not play Maddison, who's more creative or Foden, who's probably more creative in that role?
I don't know that Foden. You get the best out of Foden in the middle of the pitch.
I mean,
as his position.
To argue there, but okay, Scott. If providing you don't burst into flames, you're the England manager. Which three out of those 17 names are you starting in the first game of the Euros?
Well, obviously Bellingham, Rice are in there. I think Bellingham's good enough, and I think he does it often for Real Madrid to kind of be like the ball carrier in midfield. Yeah. And then I'm putting someone creative on the right hand side, like a Trent or a Maddison. At this stage, Trent's been injured, so I'd probably say Maddison.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. I mean, there's a really good argument for Trent in terms of you don't have to make a substitution to change your system.
Yeah.
You can move Trent further back, and then you're in a very different position during the game. You can change things in game.
Yeah, that's
make substitutions.
And I think there'd be a nice fluidity in having him on the right side of midfield, and then if Kyle Walker bombs up the right wing, Trent can just slip in and cover that space.
Trent doesn't cover that space when he is playing at right back. That's a silly argument, Scott.
Oh, but he'll sit deeper like he does for Liverpool in the midfield, and then he'll cover the space with Walker.
Yeah. I mean, I like that shout. I like Bellingham is much more of a ball carrier. Like I said earlier on, I don't think he's naturally that creative. He's more of a box scratcher. He's more of a running with the ball kind of player. I think for me, I lean more towards Maddison because you do have that a greater element of control. You don't have the range of passing that you get with Trent, but I think you get more control of the midfield with Maddison in there. And against teams that are going to come at you, the better sides, you're going to want a James Maddison over a Trent. Trent, I think you could sit in there against the kind of lesser nations, and I don't think it would make that much of a difference. But I think when you're playing against your Frances, your Germanys, your Portugals, that's where it gets difficult for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think against the bigger nations, probably be better there.
So, for my three, it's tough, right? Because I think Mainoo should start. Right, and I know I said at the top of this program that I don't think he should go, and I know those two. Yeah, I know those two opinions are entirely opposition of each other. But let me quantify it. I don't think he should go because I don't think Gareth will play him, and if he doesn't play him, I don't want him there.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Right, if he does go and he does get picked, I want him to start. Right, I don't think England has produced this kind of footballer ever. I've seen so many comparisons from various pundits around the football world. Rio said he reminded him of Seedorf. A couple of people have picked out some other players. I would liken him more to a Xavi. I think that midfield of Barcelona had Busquets sitting, Xavi in the middle, and then you had Iniesta a little bit further forward. I think he carries the ball as well as Xavi did. I think he's as good under pressure with the ball as Xavi is. He's as good on the half turn as Xavi was, and that was Xavi's biggest strength. Wherever he was stood on the field, no matter how many people were around him, you could still pass the ball to him. And that's where Xavi's strength was. I think Kobbie is very similar to that. He has the perfect temperament for international football. You don't get to go and sit in the worst midfield in Manchester United's history and look that good without having the technical ability. It's easy to go and sit in Liverpool's midfield, which is a successful winning team, or Man City's midfield, a very, very efficient machine, and look good. You don't get that luxury in a team that's performing as poorly as Man United. And I think that in and of itself speaks to his quality and why he should be starting. So all three of us so far have nailed on Rice and Bellingham. I think Kobbie is the one that links those two together. He can do the defensive work. He can sit. He has to cover for Casemiro on a weekly basis, whose legs are made out of Swiss cheese. He can move the ball forward, as we saw when he took Liverpool to pieces, all by himself, bless him. He, for me, is the link. I think he's the one that unlocks Jude Bellingham. I think he's the one that can get the ball and keep it moving. When you're playing against very good opposition who will starve you of the ball, when you get it, you need to keep it. And I think he's the person who makes that happen.
Yeah, look, I fully agree. I think I mentioned it previously, and I promise, Scott, this will be one of the last times I mention it. But that game against Liverpool, but look, even if I for Scott's benefit, don't mention the Liverpool game. Look at that chaotic Wolves game United played early on in the season.
Yeah.
He took that game by the scruff of the neck and went, no one's doing anything, so I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
Right? I think I saw something that he's made in terms of the amount of game time he's been playing, or since he's been back in the team. He's, in terms of the defensive work he's done, I think he's made the most interceptions or the most defensive blocks, or he's certainly at the top of that table in the Premier League. I think that goes unnoticed.
Per minute played.
Yes, yeah. I think that goes unnoticed. I think we all see him running past players. We all see the the goal he scored against Wolves. We see how composed he is. But he's composed going the other way as well. And that is definitely something that not all players have. Casemiro is not composed. Might have been back in the day. He's not composed. Composed, cultured, 2 words I would definitely put with Kobbie Mainoo.
Yeah.
2 words I would definitely not put with Casemiro. And I just think nothing seems to be too much for him. You see him in media duties, and they tend to shield people from media duties at his age.
Yeah.
But he's been thrown into the thick of it. And more specifically, I saw an interview with him in the England camp. They're not protecting him, they're pushing him out there, and he's just taking it all in his stride. I've been really impressed with him, and it's a real shame for me as a Man United fan that we had this first half of the season without him, because his pre-season, I know it's pre-season, but his pre-season was so positive.
It was very impressive. Yeah. Yeah.
And that game against Real Madrid, for however long it was until he got injured, it wasn't a lot of time, but he was impressing there.
And the one against Arsenal as well, the game before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great game. Yeah.
And the other thing I'd say about Kobbie Mainoo is, if you go to Pep Guardiola, you go to Mikel Arteta, you go to Jurgen Klopp, and you can have Kobbie Mainoo, but he has to play in your team. I don't think any one of them has an issue with that.
No, I think that's a fair shout, actually. And that leads me now, because we love a segue on the Attacking Football podcast. That leads me very nicely into my next point, which is we do have a resident Liverpool fan on the podcast. All of the social media discourse around Kobbie Mainoo's call up to the England senior squad has been, but what about Harvey Elliott? So, Scott, what about Harvey Elliott? What is it that Kobbie Mainoo is doing to get himself into the England squad that Harvey Elliott isn't? Is it some level of bias? There's been a lot of, Southgate's in the running for the United job, so he's picking him to curry favour. What do you think it is?
See, the way I see it is, and I think it's contradicting what you said a little bit earlier. I think it's a lot easier for a player of Mainoo's quality to stand out in a poor United midfield, and so he's like a shining light in like a very poor midfield, whereas Harvey Elliott's a very good player playing in a very good midfield. It's a lot harder to stand out. And Harvey Elliott's probably been one of our best midfielders this season, but I think he gets unlucky in the way that his physical stature, because I think Jurgen Klopp prefers Szoboszlai in that role just because height and physicality. But even when Harvey Elliott is slotted in there, doesn't look out of place. For a man small and you'd probably think skinny, he wins a lot of defensive duels. He wins the ball back quite a lot. Like it's very rare for a player of his stature to win the ball back that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask, Scott, and I ask this with all sincerity, and it's not me, taking a dig. What is it that Harvey Elliott does?
That's a good question.
I just find I get confused watching him, and I just don't know what he is. I don't know what player he is. I don't know what he does, but I don't watch him all the time.
So, like, on the right-hand side of midfielders, we would have our creative player, our number 10. So he kind of he'd be making interchange passes with the winger and the right back, and then he'd be cutting inside. So when Salah cuts in, he'd go outside. So it's like interchanging position there. And I think he has like one of the highest expected assists and big chances created in the league of any midfielders, I think. And I think when I was looking at the graph, I wrote an article, checked on the website. I think he's way up there in the corner, and he's like miles above like other creative midfielders. So he's a creative midfielder.
Yeah, nice. He's just failing at the curse of Nunes at the moment then. So as soon as Nunes starts heading things into the net and not into Rosehead, he'll be all right.
Well, Nunes has 17 goals and 14 assists this season. We'll take that.
Yeah,
that's not bad to be fair. I think Nunes has had a good season. But who would you liken Harvey Elliott to then in terms of... So Kobbie's obviously getting likened to Seedorf and this and that and the others. What kind of profile does Harvey Elliott fit?
I think he's more akin to like the James Maddison type position.
Really?
Yeah.
At attacking.
Yeah, but I think he's also very good defensively.
See, now that's interesting. Again, this comes back to the point I just made. I don't watch him.
Yeah.
When you were starting to talk then, I genuinely thought you were going to say the person I have in my head whenever I think of Harvey Elliott, James Milner.
No.
That's who I think of.
So bags and bags and bags of work ethic, but very little talent.
Yeah, pretty much.
Loves a crisp sandwich.
Yeah, that guy. And
Right,
it's fitting because he's everywhere. You can't deny it, right? He works his socks off every single game, and I imagine every training session. But I just feel like it's, running around a hell of a lot, and at the end of the game, you kind of forgot he was even on the pitch. Personally,
that's the other thing. Is there something? Is there a little bit of star quality missing, maybe from Harvey Elliott that Kobbie Mainoo kind of has?
No,
is that sprinkling of stardust?
So yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Like Mainoo looks a star because he's playing in like such a poor midfield. Like I think if Mainoo was playing in Man City, Liverpool, or Arsenal's midfield, I don't think he would have stood out as much as he has.
So I was half expecting. I mean, Scott, you and I know each other very well. We've gone head to head in podcast after podcast after podcast. So I was expecting another fight, and in preparation, I found 3 pundits who I think you could argue of anti-Manchester United, because I was expecting the conversation to be he's only in the squad because big club bias, right?
Yeah.
And the 3 I found were Micah Richards, the Manchester City legend, because they don't have very many, so they claim. Alan Shearer, who famously turned down Man United and hates a lot of the Sir Alex Ferguson, Roy Keane kind of era, and Ian Wright, the biggest Arsenal fan on planet Earth. And all 3 of them have been heaping praise on Kobbie Mainoo in the last 10 to 14 days. And I can't find anybody doing the same with Harvey Elliott. Is there a reason for that?
No, I think it's just Harvey Elliott's been around for quite some time. Like he's
a lot older.
I mean, yeah, like he made his debut at 15 in the Premier League for Fulham.
Oh wow!
Yeah, or it might be in the League Cup. But he was very young when he made his debut. I think I remember in 21-22 when he started getting a real run of games in the team. It was the game against Chelsea. I think Gary Neville was heaping a lot of praise on Harvey Elliott. He was like, he's this young. Playing in this type of fixture. It was when Chelsea under Tuchel, they just won the Champions League and people were tipping them to fight for the title, and it was early in the season and Gary Neville was saying he's this young and he's playing this well in such a big game, and I think we just have so many players who play his role, and I think just their physical stature is just better than him in the way we play. Like I think he's unlucky the fact that we have Szoboszlai who plays out on the right. And then we also have McAllister, who plays out on the right when Endo's playing. And I think they just offer more physicality in that position than Elliott does. You've got
Bajcetic to come back from injury as well. I think he's probably quite a similar profile to Elliott.
Yeah, no, but I'd say Bajcetic, he's more of a sitting midfielder, number 6.
Yeah, a lot more defensive, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I've got 2 more questions before we move to the end of the podcast, right? So, number 1 is. The topic is Kobbie Mainoo. What do you think Kobbie Mainoo's best position is? Does he play as the 6? Does he play as the 8?
You can't. I don't think he's an 8 for me.
I'd say 8, 100%.
Because I think he's so good with the ball, and you want him to take the ball forward and carry, because he can carry you up the pitch.
Yeah.
You don't. If you have a 6 who does that, unless your 8's particularly good at covering you defensively, then I think that's a risk.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say
and the reason
a 6 and a pivot.
So a double pivot, so sitting alongside. So the way he plays for Manchester United basically is he sits alongside Casemiro or he sits alongside Scott McTominay. So that's where you would put him in a double pivot, like a dual 6.
Yeah.
And then they take in turns moving forward depending on. Right. Okay. Fine. I think arguably that's where I'd put him as well.
Alfie, I say? Sorry, Alfie, go on, mate.
No, go on.
I was going to say, dare I say, is he the replacement for Calvin Phillips?
I think that's ultimately where it'll end up. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that England team.
Well, it is Southgate, so Calvin Phillips might be the replacement for Calvin Phillips.
Alfie?
Yeah, for me, I think it's an 8. I think he is also good defensively, but one thing I don't think people realise how good he is creatively. some of the passes he makes, I think, go very unnoticed. I think you can't have someone with that amount of technical ability to be able to bring the ball forward as much as he can. The passes he can pull off, I don't want him being a number 6 for his whole career. I want to see him more up the pitch and showing people what he can.
There is an argument that says if Manchester United want to play out from the back or England want to play out from the back, you want the most composed person receiving
that's a good point.
from the defender. And you want the person who is able to play on the half turn, who can receive the ball on the half turn and play out to the wings and relieve that pressure. When you're being pressed really high up the pitch, you need somebody who can play in a teammate when under pressure. And I think that's not Casemiro. That's not Scott McTominay. No. That's not Declan Rice. I think that's Kobbie Mainoo, and I think that's where the double pivot comes in, where you have him sitting as the second 6.
Look, I think you're right. It's a good point about that, and that actually probably answers the question I was about to ask. But I was about to say, and I don't know if it's the perfect comparison, but to players playing the game currently, where does Frankie de Jong play?
8.
To me, that's where Kobbie Mainoo plays. Mainoo being the profile of Frankie de Jong. So we know that Erik ten Hag chased Frankie de Jong for an entire summer and then got Casemiro. We won't go into the comparisons between those two players and their similarities or lack thereof. I don't think he needs to worry about that now.
Yeah, that's a good show.
Yeah.
But okay, and then let's bring this Kobbie Mainoo stuff to a close. I think we've got some good opinions on that. In terms of the England squad that is going to the Euros, we all know Gareth Southgate has his favourites. The people that are going no matter what. Jordan Henderson is one of those that should not be going, but is going. Let's face it, and he would have been going even if he was still playing in Saudi Arabia in front of 4 people and a mule. But I want to ask each of you, who do you think will be the surprise pick that goes to the Euros this year? Because there's always one that comes wildly out of left field that nobody expected. That I think, Scott, let's start with you. Who was your surprise pick?
I'm not sure. Maybe Dominic Solanke.
Oh, that's a good shout.
Nice.
That's a very, very good shout, actually. I think that's probably quite likely to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Watkins had a poor game the other night, so
yeah, he didn't look good at all.
He didn't cover himself in glory, did he?
No.
Josh,
Jared Branthwaite, is that his name?
Again, that's another really good shout. I think if there's an injury or two, he's going.
He's like one of the only left-foot centre backs I think that are available, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's quick as anything.
That's true. Yeah. Alfie?
I reckon, I don't know if it's too surprising, but he's not getting talked about. I know he's been injured recently, but I think Mark Gay, I think he'll be in the squad.
Where's Mark playing at the moment?
He's at Palace, but he's injured at the moment.
I don't mind that show.
Okay. That's a decent shout. I think Branthwaite goes ahead of him. So yeah, I think
for me he does, but I just feel like he'll be in it.
So my outside pick is James Ward-Prowse.
Ooh.
Because you think he finally gets it?
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. Gareth Southgate, you saw it against Brazil. He has a very specific plan from set pieces. And he does it a lot in tournament football. Set pieces are a big, big weapon. And I think he's going to take James Ward-Prowse exclusively for that.
Do you think he takes James Ward-Prowse if Kieran Trippier is fit?
Yes.
Yeah, see, I don't think there's a need for him because you've got Trippier, Madison, and Trent who can all take set pieces fairly well.
Yeah, I still think he goes, boys. There's in world football at the moment, I struggle to find a better dead ball specialist than James Ward-Prowse.
Yeah.
And
I think
when you have that kind of person, when you say the sentence "in world football there is currently nobody better," doesn't matter what that skill is. If it's heading the ball, if it's saving the ball, if it's passing the ball, that person has to go.
I mean, Rory Delap could have gone for his throws, right? At one point. So
Yeah, he played for Ireland, so.
well, I didn't have to go with England. So
I think he
make many
played for
tournaments
Ireland
anyways.
because there was nobody else. Okay. Anything else, boys?
No, that's it from me.
No.
can I just make a request that we revisit this podcast when the Euro squad is announced?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
100%.
Can I request
happening.
we revisit it after we win it, and Mainoo bags the winner in the final?
I'm busy that day, lads.
You heard it here first. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining us on this week's Attacking Football podcast. I have been your host, L.A. Matthews. I have been joined by Alfie and Scott and Josh. Next week is a humdinger. Make sure you join us for that. And don't forget to check out the website. Thank you very much. See you next time.